We have some massive news to cover. Sony Pictures, like 2 hours ago, just bought the rights to James Islington's Hierarchy series. Book 1 being The Will of the Many, and the recent sequel, The Strength of the Few. This is huge news. It's being reported as one of the biggest book deals of 2025. And yeah, that tracks. The Will of the Many is one of my favorite books. Just a couple days ago, I put out a massive, in-depth summary for The Will of the Many. I went chapter by chapter, summarizing the book. It's nearly 3 hours long, and I included a bunch of awesome artwork. I read some of the best quotes. I tried to make it kind of cinematic by doing some soundscaping, mixing some music and sound effects into those really intense scenes. So if you're looking for a detailed recap of book 1 that will basically feel like you've reread the book before moving on to the sequel, The Strength of the Few, then make sure to go watch my summary. I spent like 3 full weeks of my life putting that video together, so I hope you guys enjoy. But to be honest, The Will of the Many is a very cinematic book in its own right. As I was working on the script and editing that video, I kept imagining what this book would look like as a TV show with a decent budget, and it wasn't hard to imagine. I could see this working so well as a TV show, which is why I'm very excited about the news that Sony bought the rights to the Hierarchy series. Now, it is the film rights that they bought. This isn't for a TV show, so I'm gonna get into my thoughts on that a little later. But for those that don't know, The Will of the Many was published in 2023, and on Goodreads, it has over 170,000 ratings, with 120,000 of those being 5-star ratings. 120,000 5 stars. Now, James Islington has won multiple awards for this. He's now sold 2.5 million copies. And that's all to say that there's a lot of momentum behind this series, and I feel like an adaptation is just something that's going to happen eventually. This is begging for an adaptation. And if you're not familiar at all with The Will of the Many, I'll briefly explain what it's about. This is set in a Roman-inspired world where people literally give up their life force, called their will, to those higher up in the social hierarchy. Our protagonist, Vis, is hiding a massive secret while attending an elite academy. Not to mention trying to solve a murder, exploring ancient ruins, and infiltrating a regime that executed his family. What starts as a story of survival slowly builds into this multi-layered rebellion full of conspiracies and political maneuvering, and yes, a really awesome magic system and some fantastic, memorable characters. This is dense, it's clever, and it doesn't hold your hand either. And now Sony has acquired the film adaptation rights for the entire Hierarchy series, not just The Will of the Many, the entire series as a whole. And I mean, the timing for all of this seems very intentional. This is happening right after the release of book 2, The Strength of the Few, which just released on November 11th, and it already reached the #1 New York Times bestseller list, also breaking records in Canada, the UK, and Australia. And of course, a lot of this is helped by the hype on TikTok and YouTube. This series is kind of on fire right now, so it makes sense we would get some news about an adaptation. Now, while Sony bought the film adaptation rights, this doesn't necessarily mean we're going to see an adaptation anytime soon. Right now, there's no producer or director or screenwriter attached to this adaptation, so you know, sometimes these things take time, sometimes they fall through. I'm really hoping that we will see an adaptation come to light. But what we do know is that Peter Kong and Louis Provost are overseeing this project for Sony. Now, Peter Kong has worked, he's a producer for the upcoming Ghost of Tsushima film, which I'm so excited for. Ghost of Tsushima is one of my favorite games. He's also working on things like Tokyo Ghost Story and the upcoming remake for Christine. Louis, on the other hand, has worked on some Disney stuff. He was a producer for the live-action Lilo and Stitch. Again, though, they're just overseeing the project. We don't know who's going to be directing or producing this yet. As excited as I am to see a transvect skimming across the water, in the theaters. I would be lying if I wasn't nervous about this as well. The fact that Sony Pictures is the company that's involved, it does give me a little bit of pause, to be honest. Sony doesn't have the best track record when dealing with big franchises, to put it nicely. If they had the Spider-Verse team working on this, that would be amazing, but that's probably unlikely. There's also the fact that they bought the rights for film adaptations, and my first thought was, how on earth are they going to adapt these books into films? These are pretty dense books. The Will of the Many alone is 600 plus pages. My in-depth summary that I made on that book was almost 3 hours long, and that was just a detailed summary. Yes, there is a lot that can be condensed, and I can kind of see the first book working if they really focused in on Vis's backstory and attending the academy and just the relationships that he has with the students and the preceptors and just the central mystery of the labyrinth and the ruins. I could see it working if they really focused in and were careful with what they cut out. I could see the first book working as a single movie, but now that I'm reading the second book, I don't know how they're going to adapt this one into a movie. The second book kind of cranks things up even more. Let me know if you think it's possible to adapt these into single movies. They could give this the Dune treatment and split each book into multiple movies. Then potentially they would have like 5 to 6 movies once the planned 4 books comes to completion. That could actually work. They could really take time to build the world and the tension and the mystery, show us those labyrinth training montages. However, that takes a lot of faith in the source material, so it's kind of unlikely. My first thought is that this series would be perfect for an HBO-style TV show, and I really wish that's what we were getting. But I am still excited for this. I want this to be good. I'm just not gonna pretend that it's already a slam dunk just because the source material is so strong. Sony could fumble the ball. They have in the past, but all we can hope for is that they do justice to this series. Now, I do have a few specific things I want to mention that I would like to see. First of all, I really hope they get the color grading right with this adaptation. A lot of Roman or ancient settings in film recently, I feel like they're all kind of washed out. They're all gray, brown, drab colors, and I don't really understand that. I want to see them bring those bright, vibrant colors to the clothing, like the red academy cloaks that they wear, the embroidered togas, whatever it is. I feel like there's potential to bring some color to the clothing and just the beauty of this Roman-inspired world. The academy could really pop. Busy marketplaces in the city of Catan and like the festivals that they have, they could really make the colors pop, and that would just make it way more visually appealing than just brown and white and gray. Gladiator 2 is one of those that kind of went down that route, and it just felt very washed out to me. The second thing I'm hoping to see is a good balance between the mystery and the relationships with the characters. I'm hoping they don't just focus on the relationship between Vis and Emissa and lean into making romance the central plot of the story. Of course, I want to see that in there, but I don't want that to become the main focus of the movie just to appeal to the masses that want a good love story. I hope they still keep the central themes of the novel. And then the final thing I want to mention is just that one of the coolest things about The Will of the Many is that it trusts the readers. It doesn't over-explain, it builds mystery, it slowly pulls back layers, and it lets you piece things together, and I would love to see them keep at least some of that instead of just sanding all the edges off into a generic Chosen One versus the Empire story. I would like to see them nail the mystery and the themes of rebellion and espionage and like the pressure that's on Vis without spoon feeding it to the reader, I think it could be done really well. Overall, I would say I am cautiously optimistic, leaning more towards optimistic because this is very exciting. And I want to say a huge congratulations to James Islington, because not only is he like topping charts worldwide, but now to land a major deal with a huge studio, that's huge news, and the man's on fire right now. I'm so excited to see where the series is going to go, and if they manage to pull off this adaptation, we're going to be looking at the next big franchise in fantasy. By the way, I am hosting a giveaway for this exact copy of The Strength of the Few, so if you want a chance to win a free hardcover copy of Book 2, then make sure to check the link in the description. Honestly, I only just started on the sequel because I was busy working on that massive in-depth summary. I've been hearing some booktubers and reviewers say that it's a big step down from the first book, and then I've been seeing a lot of other people say they love the sequel. So it could be that some people are just, you know, cashing in on that negative clickbait for views. I will give you my full thoughts on the sequel as soon as I'm done reading it. I'll post a spoiler-free review. It is going to take me a little longer to review it because I like to take my time reading. It always surprises me how fast people finish new releases. I'm going to take my time with this one. I need to take notes for the next summary, but as soon as I finish it, I'll update you guys with my thoughts. So let me know what you think of this news. Who would you cast as Vis or Emissa or Ulciscor? Also, would you rather see this be film adaptations or a TV show? Let me know in the comments. If you're new here and you want more fantasy deep dives, make sure to subscribe, and it would mean a lot if you checked out my in-depth summary I made for The Will of the Many. I spent so many hours on that video, and I hope you guys enjoy. As always, a massive thank you to all of my patrons and my channel members, and I want to give a special thank you to my top tier patrons, Josh and Mike Baker. Also, my recent Knights Radiant tier patron, Fiona Moore. Thank you so much for the support. It really goes a long way to helping me with those big deep dives.